We're getting there. So far what we have, we've just created a custom delegate on our cell. We created a custom protocol on our saved article cell. We created a custom protocol there. And we were able to communicate to the view controller, hey, something was selected and what was selected. So if we go back to our save view controller, our save articles view controller, we completed, before the break, we completed our did select more button function showing an action sheet. So when I click on the more button, it shows the user an action sheet. The next place to go now is to delete that item. So to delete the item, we'll create a helper function here called, it's a private function. We'll say delete article. And it's an article, so delete, just call this article then. Delete article here and here, okay. So it takes in an article and it deletes the article. Let's look for that article. Where does the article live? Guard let index equal to, we have a saved articles array. We find where that article is. Article. Now that we have the index, we simply use our persistence instance to delete it. So here, what do we say? We say try data persistence dot delete. Delete, sir, and pass the index. If we have an error, we simply print out what the error is. We say error deleting article and error. So our delete article helper function takes in an article. It searches for where that article is in our array. It returns the index if it exists. If it does exist, it takes that index and it deletes it from our documents directory. So this here deletes from documents directory, deletes from documents directory. So it gets deleted from documents directory. And we've done some hard work already to make this just work, right? So when it gets deleted, our data persistence has a delegate. And it happens that our saved article view controller is conforming to that delegate already. So when a delete happens here, in our items here, item was deleted, this did delete will get called. Okay, we have all that code already. So that did delete will get called. We're not gonna actually do any code here for now, but we'll see it was printed. Item was deleted, will get printed, okay? So let's go back down. So in our delete article, we need to call it first. So make sure you're calling it in our to-do here on line 120. So self.delete article, parsing the article. I remove this.
You don't have to move it from the collection view?
Before we move it from the collection view, we will see what happens, like what delegate method gets called, right? Before we attempt to remove anything. Okay, so we call delete article. Great, great, great. Make sure you have that method here, and let's go ahead and run the app. Run the app and pay attention to the console and see what happens when you click on that delete button. So I click on my more button. I click on delete. Do we see item was deleted? In our console, do we see item was deleted? Does your save work, Chelsea? Okay, if the bottom of the function, oh, you're not, Oh, you're not done with that one. Got it. Were we able to see item was deleted? Greg? Eric? Mel?
Yep.
You were able to see item was deleted, correct? Because right now the delegate method we have, did delete, gets called. Because we conforming to it, it will get called when I save, it will get called when I delete. And we have a print statement in there right now, right? So simply just remove the print statement and put in fetch, fetch saved articles. So instead of the print statement, just put fetch saved articles and run your app again. Is anybody still typing did delete? Okay, so we confirm that item was deleted, does get printed. Item was deleted, this function gets called because we're conforming to the data persistent delegate. So any change on the data persistence, those methods gets called. So here we'll do the same thing. We'll say fetch save articles here. Print this here. Run the app again. Run the app again, go to my saved articles, click on a saved article, delete, and it's gone. And look at that, our empty state is beautiful, right? It works, it's awesome. This is the type of code we need to submit from now on, right? Code that takes care of empty states, code that just like, right? It listens, it changes, things are like magic at some point, right? It just works. So we're able to do delete, we could save. Awesome? Great. What is the next step here? I guess our settings page is lonely at this point. Is there any questions before we move on? Yes, sir. Empty view. So the empty view question is, where did we set up the empty view? Empty view got set up in our did set here. I mean, yes, we could probably write a function for that. That's getting a bit long there. So maybe like encapsulate in its own function, update empty state or something, instead of having that whole bunch of code in your list. Yes, sir.
What's the difference between fetching the articles and the did delete opposed to removing
You could remove item. You could do that.
delete articles?
Yeah, you could do that. The only one problem is making sure that your data is in sync if you're doing any adding with the documents directory. Cool? But the item is there, you could remove it, you could add it, as opposed to reloading the collection view, right? But it's way better than doing it in view will appear, right? Okay, cool. So moving along here, let's move to our settings view. What does our settings view have? It has a picker view. Our settings page will have a picker view of news sections from the New York Times. Let me get us an array of stuff there that is ready to go with that stuff. GitHub, repos, advanced, there, controllers, settings, and this is the array. So we're not typing out array again. Okay, so this is the array we'll use for our sections, for our picker view. That's the data for our picker view. Everybody? Cool? All right, so let's go create our picker view. So we have our settings view controller. Let's create a view for our settings view controller. So we'll create a new view. Cocoa Touch, subclass of UI view, and it's called settings view. Next, and create. And we are creating a custom view. Create custom view is called settings view. And we have a picker view. So picker view. Picker view is of type UI. Picker view. because we need to access it in the collection view to say collection view dot pick a view. Settings view dot pick a view. If it's private, we have no access to it in the collection in the controller
Not understandable, why do we need access
to set the data source and the delegate.
to, so that it will change your awareness to the.
When we get back to our settings view controller, we need to access the pick a view to say pick a view dot data source, pick a view dot delegate. This is fine. I mean, it's okay. All questions are questions. Pick a view equal to UI, pick a view, return, pick a view. Okay, so let's set up our pick a view. Our pick a view just take, not the entire screen, but private function setup. Picker view constraints and add subview picker view that translates auto resizing mask to false, and next we say layout constraints activate, and here picker view will be centered X and Y, so picker view dot center Y constraint equal to center Y. Pick a view. Is the temperature rising or is it just me?
It's just weird.
Okay. I was just checking. I'm gonna be here tomorrow same time. Okay. So X and Y centered, and let's make trailing and lead in. So pick a view, lead in, constraint, lead in, and pick a view, trailing, constraint, trailing, and make sure to call our setup, pick a view, constraints. So center horizontally and vertically and aligned to the left and the right of our super view. And the picker view doesn't need a height. Okay, looking good, Ray. Still typing? Good? Okay. So let's make sure we have everything set up before we go. So common init calls set up. We have common init, pick a view. Okay, cool. Let's go to our settings view controller and set up our view. So private, let settings view, settings view, load view, view equal to settings view, and our data, let's get our data ready here. So data for picker view is this data. We have that in Slack. I slacked that out a minute ago. So just copy that array This was not a code snippet. It's in Slack. So those are the sections. Those represent the sections of news from the New York Times. And that's the data for our picker view. And it's sorted, ascending by default here. That means from A to Z.
It's already sorted.
Oh, also already sorted too. Is it?
Yes.
Okay. So that's not needed then. I took an unsorted list and I sorted it, not realizing that. So that's not needed.
Does Sunday review have to be one word?
Yes, keep everything as is. Tested and bulletproofed. Cool. So,
The real estate?
yeah, everything as is. So we have our data here. Let's go ahead and set up our, this is not green. Just make this system grouped background. And let's set up the picker view. So set up picker view. We'll say settings dot picker view dot data source equal to self. If this was private, Tiffany, we wouldn't have access to it here.
Right.
Cool. And then we'll say settings view dot picker view dot delegate equal to self. And now we're getting errors because we are not conforming to anything yet, but we're saying that we will. So let's go ahead and conform using an extension on our settings view controller. We'll say UI picker view data source, and we'll say UI picker view delegate. So picker view will have how many components? One component. What does a component mean? A column. It's going to have one column. How many rows it will have? How many rows?
The section that
Right. So sections that count will be the number of items or number of rows. Very good. So let's go ahead and implement those methods. So we'll start off by saying number of components, we return 1. And then we say number of rows, we return, as Tiffany says, we return sections that count. Great. And I really want this method to be in the data source, but it is what it is here. So title for, so type in title for, and this is the title for row. And title for row expects a string. That title will be the title for each row in our picker view. And here return, what are we returning? How do I get access to it? Shania, how do I get access to the title for row here? I'm returning a string, but how am I accessing that string? Yeah, so you said sections? Okay, sections dot same as with our table view and our collection view, we index it into the array, right? And here we index with the row. This is how we access each individual string. So here, accessing each individual string in the sections array. Did you raise it or you were going? Looking out for me.
No.
You see, even Shania agreed.
But look at her, you are merciless. You're merciless. She's bundled up right in front of you.
All right, we should be able to run now and see sections being rendered. Let's run it.
Merciless.
6 minutes. Okay, so we go to settings, right? If we go to settings, we should see now our sections being rendered. And here we have arts all the way down to world, right? Is world the last one? Right? Cool? Excelente. Okay. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop right here. I'll stop here, and within the next hour, while you guys eating lunch or whatever, you will get user defaults to work such that we'll come back and do it together, but this is review, remember? So as I change, so if I change to travel, for example, and I go back to my news feed, this should change to travel, right? Everybody? And the title should also change to say travel news. That's the to-do. We've set up the picker view. The to-do would be to add the section to your user defaults, and when you go over to your first tab, to call the API with that new entry, whatever that is, okay? And then we'll do it again together after lunch. Cool? Before we leave, does everybody have their picker view being rendered? Yes? Okay, perfect. Any questions about our to-do item? Let's come together and solve it, right? And then that gets us better review time there. Okay, cool. I'll stop right here.